Okay, so I want to do a quick little tutorial on how to do page editing or to build pages with the Beaver Builder page builder. So the first thing is if you're creating a new page, you're going to notice that there's the text editor, which you can bounce between visual and text, and then you have this page builder tab. So when we build pages with Beaver Builder, we're actually going to build them through the front end on the Beaver Builder side. We're not really going to do a whole lot with this Word page editor. You may have certain features that you use this for, but most of our work is going to be done on the other end. One thing to take note of, though, that's going to be really important is the layout. So you might see this set up as a page template. So it kind of tells what structure you're going to start off with for your page. So in this example, we're going to want to have a full width page, which I do quite frequently. So make sure the template that you're choosing for your page kind of matches up with not so much what you're going to do with Beaver Builder, but what you want to start off with as a default. So for example, this one here would be, it would have a header navigation, the body of the page is on the left, and then you've got a sidebar on the right. And that sidebar you would have to set up an appearance in widgets. You wouldn't set that sidebar up with the Beaver Builder. Now this style here would have the body of your content in the center with kind of margins on the left and right. So if you use this one, you won't be able to add full width rows with Beaver Builder. Now this one is the one I'm going to use for this demo, which gives us a nice header navigation area, but we also now have the full width to work with for the page builder. So I'm going to publish this page, which is basically just creating a new page that's called test. And then I'm going to click on Page Builder, and this is going to take us to the actual Beaver Builder editor. Give it a second here to load up. All right, I'll click it again. I'm not sure what took a little delay there. Okay, so Page Builder is now loading up. And you'll notice that see how it says Page Builder is currently active for this page. So if you were to go into that back end to do the editing, it would tell you that this particular page is using Beaver Builder. So here you go. We have our header and we have our footer that are automatically placed through the template. And now we're going to be able to start adding rows and columns. So one cool thing about Beaver Builder is, at least the paid version of it, there's a free version and a paid version, comes with a lot of templates that you can start off with. So at the click of a button, you could begin with some really cool stuff that then you just have to edit and add in your particular options. And there's a lot of different layouts here. But we're going to go with blank for the sake of learning here. So very first thing to learn about is adding rows. This is going to be the main thing when you're structuring your pages, especially nowadays with cell phones being so common. Websites being structured with rows and columns are really common because that way things stack up into one large column when you're on a mobile device. So let's say that we want to have a 3-column row. So I'm going to drag 3 columns into the middle. Now you can see that I've got 3 columns where I can add content. So let's just say I want to add text to one of them. So I'm going to drag the text editor over here. And then I'll just write in, I have my visual editor, I have my text editor, just like in the WordPress backend. We'll say this is only a test. Okay, so I create that. And now I've got a little, sometimes things bounce around for a moment after you edit them. So now I have this little text box that says this is only a test. So if I move my mouse over it, you can see a few things appear here. One of them is a little wrench, which is to edit the text box. One of them here is a duplicate if I want to make a copy of this. And I skipped over this one, which is to move around, so I can actually nicely just click and drag this around. The other one here is column editor. So what's a little bit confusing is that even though this is my text box, it's giving me both the text editor and the column editor. So let me just duplicate this so that that'll help us out a little bit for what I'm trying to explain here. If it'll work with me here. Come on. I don't want to let me duplicate. I wonder if the fact I'm recording the screen is throwing an issue. Okay. So I dragged it over to the middle, and now you can see that I've got two of these text editors. So clicking the wrench is going to edit these individual text boxes. And if I click right on the box, it also edits the individual box. We also notice I have this little icon here for edit the column, which is going to make changes to this entire column. So let's say I hit edit column, and then I go to column settings. I can decide what width I want. This is a setting that will apply to all of the columns about having them be the equal height. I can say that I want, text for the entire column to be a certain color. I can give a photo or a color background specifically to the column. So let's say I say I want to have a color background, and we'll just use gray, and I hit save. Now see, this whole column has its own colored background. Well, this is going to be different than the row. So now you notice I move my mouse up. This is highlighting the entire row, which is all three columns. So again, I've got the option for duplicate. If I hit duplicate, now I've got another row down here. I'm going to delete this for now so we don't have to worry about it. When I go over here again, I can move rows around. So I only have one here now, so there's nowhere to move it. Row settings is now going to be similar to column settings, but this will apply to the whole row. So for example, now notice that I have some more options here. I can add a video or a slideshow or even a parallax background to the entire row. And so let's go with color. And again, I'm going to choose a slightly different color, and hit save. So now you notice that my row has a color and then the column has its own color. But there's more we can do with row settings. So if I click on row settings, you're also going to notice this thing that says width and height. So for height, I can say full height, and that's somewhat intuitive that it's going to create the row that takes up a full entire height of my screen. So you can see if I scroll on, this is the full height. What's more common and useful is going to be width. So if I go full width, now my column is going to take up the full width of the screen. So you can see now I've got a bunch of space here that I can work with. The other thing is the content width now. So I've got a row that takes up the full width, but my content is still stuck in these three columns in the middle. So I can then say, okay, why don't you give me full width content? And now my columns actually extend the full width of the screen, which is pretty cool. That's how you give those kind of nice big full width views. You can also add background images. So I'll just jump over to, for example, say my site, jfwebdev.com. You'll notice that I've got, this is set up using Beaver Builder. You notice I have large full width images. That's a row that's full height using a background image. I then have a column here that has a heading, text, and some buttons in it. Something else to notice that's going to apply to almost every element that you put in here with Beaver Builder is the tab for advanced. So we have style, which is the first one I showed you. And again, you can add backgrounds. You could also make them change the opacity. So you could say, let's make it a little bit transparent. We could have photographs in the background. And one cool thing when you do a photograph in the background is there's also this background overlay. So for that, that's situations where you put a background image, but you want to darken the image, maybe to make your text pop out. Or the opposite, you might have a background image and then you want to lighten the image. So you could put an overlay. So let's say you want to do a black overlay, but have it be transparent a little bit. So you could take an image and put an overlay on it here. And depending on what opacity setting, that would tell how much darker you want it to be. And you could do the opposite with the color white. Okay. So the advanced tab is where you're going to see things related to margins and padding. So you can set your margins. Again, the margin is going to be extra space that's added to the outside of your, in this case, the row. It could also be a column or a particular element like an image. Padding is going to be spacing that you add on the inside of the element. So let's say that you want to have a column, but you don't want to have your text extend all the way to the edges of the column. In that case, you would add padding to the inside. There's also some cool tricks you could do here. So for responsive layout, you can say, let's not show this particular item if we're on a cell phone. So that way you might, on a desktop where someone can see lots of things, you could add more content. but hide it on a cell phone. So you could also have visibility if you have users that are logged in or logged out. You can hide items. And then down here, you can assign an ID or a class to your elements. So I'm not going to get into what an ID and a class are here, but just so you know, if you want to do some custom CSS, maybe there's some settings here in terms of style that you want to add that are not listed. Well, you can assign a class or an ID to this, and then you can write your own custom CSS. And you're going to see these similar settings if I go to edit column and I do column settings. You're also going to see, again, the advanced section has margin padding, stacking order. I had actually forgotten about. So stacking order tells, so it says default or reversed. So that means is I've got 3 columns here. When I put it on a mobile device, the question is, do I want them to stack in the order from left to right or from right to left? And you might say, well, why is this relevant? And I'll give you, I used to have a really good example of this on my home website. Let me see if I still do. Okay, so here you go. So this is not a great example. Oh man, let's see, lighting. No, so this is not a great example, but how about my about page? Yeah, this might be all right. So let's say I've got an example where on a desktop, it looks kind of nice to have the image on the left and the text on the right. And then maybe I have multiple rows and I alternate. So maybe I have a row where the image is on the left and the text is on the right. And then the next row, I reverse it so that the image is on the right and the text is on the left. On a computer screen, this is really helpful because it kind of balances things out. You have the image on the left and then it's on the right, and it looks really nice. When you go to a cell phone, though, it could be really confusing if they stack from left to right, because then I'll have an image and text, and then the next row, I would have text and then an image. So it could be confusing to a reader on a mobile device. So by controlling the stacking order, wherever it was here, so under advanced stacking order, you can have a little more control over what happens on your cell phone. And again, you have these CSS selectors for IDs and class. So that's kind of the main thing of setting up the structure with Beaver Builder using rows and columns. You'll also notice that there's all these different modules you can drop in. You could put a video, you could drop a video in here where you can actually upload the video from your media library, or you can embed a video using like code from, say, YouTube if you want to put a YouTube video in. You can add a heading. So let's say at the top here, I want to put a heading in that says, page title. I can style this and, align it in the middle. You can see there's some different settings that you can plug in here for that. Moving on to some other settings here. HTML, you could add a button, you could add an audio clip. You go to advanced modules. Again, this is with the paid version, and you get a lot more features that you can start dropping in here, which is really cool. And then WordPress widgets allows you to take everything from your widgets page and then also drop those in as a module in here. So that's a quick rundown of the different things you can do when you're laying things out with the Beaver Builder. Okay, I hope you found this useful.